This is it. I am here with our final episode in the Holiday Side Dish series. Over the last few weeks, we've taken a deep dive into the vegetable sides that really make the holiday table shine. Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, green beans, squash, and now wild rice. Now, before anybody gets technical, yes, I know wild rice isn't a vegetable, it's actually a seed, but let's be honest, between all the roasted carrots, mushrooms, and herbs that usually show up in wild rice dishes, I think it earns its place at the vegetable table. Plus, it's hearty, make-ahead friendly, and it plays so well with all those cozy, warm flavors of the holidays. So today, I am sharing 3 festive wild rice recipes that are just as beautiful as they're practical, perfect for your Friendsgiving spread, bringing a dish to Thanksgiving, or rounding out your holiday menu at home. Now, before we dive into the recipes, let's talk about the star of the show, wild rice. Depending on the dish, I like to use either cultivated wild rice or a wild blend, which is usually a mix of wild rice, brown rice, black rice, and sometimes red rice. The exact combination can vary quite a bit depending on the brand you're using, but my go-to here in the US is the Lundberg Wild Blend. It is consistent, flavorful, and more importantly, holds up beautifully in both warm and room temperature dishes. That said, cooking times can vary, so be sure to check the instructions on your specific brand's packaging. Some blends take as little as 30 minutes, while others can take closer to an hour. If you're new to cooking wild rice or the blends, no worries, I'll show you exactly how we do it in this video, but if you want to dig deeper, I have a full guide on my blog that covers everything: stovetop and instant pot methods, water to rice ratios, timing, and all those small details that makes a big difference. Now that we covered the basics, let's jump into our first recipe, wild rice stuffing. We'll start by cooking the rice. Into a large pot with a tight fitting lid, we'll add 2 cups of wild rice blend, 3.5 cups of vegetable stock, and a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. We'll cover it, bring it to a boil over medium heat, then reduce the heat to low and let it simmer until all the liquid is absorbed, which takes about 45 minutes give or take. Once it's done, we'll take it off the heat, let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes, and then fluff it with a fork. At this point, I like to take the lid off and give it a few minutes to release some of the steam. It's best to let it cool slightly before mixing it with the rest of the ingredients. That way, the vegetables hold their texture and the herbs that we'll add later stay nice and vibrant. While the rice is cooking, we'll get started on the vegetable mixture. In a large skillet, we'll heat 1 tablespoon of olive oil and then add 1 chopped onion, 4 chopped celery stalks, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and half a teaspoon of black pepper. We'll saute that over medium heat until softened for about 5 to 7 minutes. Then we'll add 2 cloves of garlic and saute for another 30 seconds or so, just until fragrant. Once that's done, we'll transfer the mixture to a large mixing bowl and let it cool. Make sure to use a large bowl here because this is where everything will come together later on. Using the same skillet, we'll melt 1 tablespoon of butter and add 2 apples cut into 1/2 inch cubes. You can leave the skin on or peel them, it's completely up to you, both ways would work. And in case you're wondering, I'm using Fuji apples, but Honeycrisp, Gala, or really any crisp apple would be great here. We'll saute the apples for about 5 minutes, just until lightly brown. Then we'll turn off the heat and stir in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Now, yes, you could add the apples raw, but taking a few minutes to saute them brings out their natural sweetness, soften the edges just slightly, and the lemon adds a fresh finish that really pulls it all together. We'll transfer the apples into the bowl with the sauteed vegetables, along with the now slightly cooled wild rice blend. To that, we will add a half a cup of chopped pecans and a half a cup of chopped dried cranberries. We'll give everything a good stir to combine, transfer it to a large casserole dish, and spread it out evenly. From there, it goes into a preheated 375-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, just until everything is warmed through and the flavors have a chance to mingle a little bit. Once it's out of the oven, we'll finish it off with 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh sage or parsley if that's what you have, and a handful of pomegranate seeds. Because hey, it's the holidays and that little pop of color adds just the right touch. And before you ask, yes, you can absolutely make this a day or two ahead. Just prep everything up to the point of baking, let it cool to room temperature, and store it in the fridge in an airtight container. Then on the day off, transfer it to a casserole dish and pop it in the oven while the turkey is resting. It should be warm and ready just in time for dinner. Moving on to our second recipe, an Garten classic that I make every year. Her wild rice salad is as easy as it gets. It's sweet, savory, super colorful, and of course it's make-ahead friendly because it's meant to be served cold. We'll start by cooking the wild rice. Now you can absolutely cook it straight from the package, but if you remember to soak it for a couple of hours ahead of time, it'll cut the cooking time almost in half. For the sake of this video, I'm cooking it without soaking, but just know that soaking is an option if you're planning it ahead. Into a small saucepan with a lid, we'll add 1 cup of wild rice, 3 cups of vegetable stock, and a half a teaspoon of kosher salt. We'll cover it, bring it to a boil over medium heat, then reduce the heat to low and let it simmer for 40 to 45 minutes or until most of the liquid is absorbed and you see some of the kernels burst open. At that point, I like to give it a taste. It should be tender but still have a bit of a bite to it. If there's a little liquid left in the pan, you can drain it. Otherwise, just let the rice cool while we prep the rest of the ingredients. Before we move on to the salad ingredients, let's quickly make the dressing. Into a measuring cup, we'll add the zest of 1 orange, about a tablespoon or so, half a cup of freshly squeezed orange juice, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We'll give that a good stir to combine and set it aside. So now for the salad itself, into a large bowl, we'll add 1 cup of halved green grapes, 2 peeled oranges cut into small pieces, half a cup of chopped green onions, about 2 to 3 stalks, 1/4 cup of chopped dried cranberries, and a cup of chopped pecans. We'll add the cooled wild rice into the bowl, then drizzle it with the citrus dressing we made earlier. We'll give everything a gentle toss to combine, then taste and adjust the seasoning if needed. At this point, you can either cover it and pop it in the fridge or transfer it to a serving platter and garnish it with a handful of pomegranate seeds for a bit of a festive touch. Our final recipe is my wild rice pilaf. Now, I wanted to include this in case you're looking for something a little more savory with more of the earthy flavors and not sweet like the first 2 recipes I made. Still, it's wonderful to serve with turkey, roast chicken, and even a holiday beef tenderloin. Into a large heavy bottom pot over medium heat, we'll add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 large chopped onion, 2 medium carrots cut into 1/2 inch pieces, and 3 finely chopped celery. We'll saute that for 4 to 5 minutes, just until the vegetables start to soften. Next up, mushrooms. I'm using cremini mushrooms here that I wiped and cleaned with a paper towel and sliced thinly earlier, but really any mushroom would work here. If you can get your hands on, say, like a mix of wild mushrooms, even better. They'd add great flavor and a bit of visual interest as well. We'll add the mushrooms to the pot and saute for another 7 to 8 minutes or until softened and slightly browned. Then we'll add 2 cloves of minced garlic and cook for another 30 seconds or just until fragrant. Next, we'll stir in 2 cups of wild rice blend, 3 cups of vegetable stock, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and a half a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. We'll give that a good stir, cover it with a lid, and bring it to a boil. Once boiling, we'll lower the heat and let it simmer gently for 45 to 50 minutes or until the rice is cooked and most of the liquid is absorbed. When it's done, we'll take it off the heat, let it rest for about 10 minutes, then fluff it with a fork. Right before serving, we'll transfer it to a platter or a serving bowl and finish it with a handful of chopped fresh parsley for a pop of color and freshness right at the end. If you prefer to make it a day or 2 in advance, just let it cool to room temperature, transfer it to an airtight container, and store it in the fridge. When you're ready to reheat, warm it in a saucepan with a splash of water or vegetable stock. Though just keep an eye on it as it warms. Give it a few stirs to make sure it's heating evenly and not drying out. That sums it up for me today. As always, you can find all the recipe links down below. On the blog, I made sure that each post covers substitution ideas and expert tips, so if I didn't answer a question in the video, chances are you'll find it there. And before I let you go, if you've been following along and watched all 5 episodes of the Holiday Side Dish series, thank you so much. I hope it made your holiday menu planning just a little easier and a lot more fun. If you haven't seen the others yet, you've got 4 more episodes full of truly easy, foolproof recipes waiting for you. If you learned something new or feel inspired, give this video a thumbs up and of course subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. As always, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Now before sorry. Oh my gosh, I cannot. Let me just say that again. Fresh, finish that. I'm sorry. Easier and a lot more fun. Puff of fresh color. Puff of color and fresh.